Very nice to have you here.
Thank you,
It'd be
Andrea.
even nicer to have Paul Nuttall. You know what's happened to him?
Well, he had a trip booked, as you might imagine, straight after the by-election, and he wanted to break it, but we insisted, particularly after what he'd been through, we insisted that he go. So I'm afraid you've got the B team.
But if he had, it's very nice to have you here. But if he had a trip booked, then presumably he assumed he wasn't going to win the by-election. He might have been the new MP.
No, he had a trip booked, as quite often happens after by-elections. But given the grueling time that he'd been through and a particularly personal attack, obviously we wanted him to rest up.
He had an absolutely miserable 4 weeks. He's been called the Purple Pinocchio. He's been much mocked for a kind of Walter Mitty fantasy life and so forth. Lots of very personal attacks about his house and everything else. Is he in the mood to stay on as UKIP leader?
Oh, there's no question about that, Andrew. I mean,
really?
Absolutely no question. Paul was elected with the biggest mandate last year. And without question, he has united the party. Let's face it, we had a bit of a rough time last year.
And I think you've still got a rough time.
No. The difference is, of course, it's disappointing that we didn't win in Stoke. But we are more united than ever. Everything is more in place than ever, and there's a real sense of renewed purpose.
Well, let me pick you up on those, if I might. You say you're more united than ever. And we have today Nigel Farage and Aaron Banks saying that the party is being run worse than a stall in a market, that you're in terrible trouble. Aaron Banks saying to you and to Paul Nuttall, make me chairman and let me sort out this party, or I am off with my money. What's your message to him?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, we've got a great young, dynamic chairman in Paul Oakden, that's for sure.
So you don't want Aaron Banks as your chairman?
It will be a very interesting conversation to have. You know, I've always been very, very grateful for Aaron's contributions.
His money,
he's
let's be
supported
honest.
us. Obviously, he's not the only one who supports us. I mean, we exist as a party. You know, if Aaron were to take his money away, there are other people. Obviously, I wouldn't want that to happen. But the fact is, as well, is that, you know, these sorts of interventions are grist to the mill. They happen all the time with our party. It's part of politics. So I think the difference is that with us is that people tend to see a kind of do or die situation in virtually every controversy.
Well, this time round, they saw it with some reason, because Paul Nuttall, UKIP generally, had said to us again and again, we are going to replace Labour in the Midlands and the north of England. We're going to sweep them aside, just you watch. I want to replace Labour and make UKIP the patriotic party of working people, said Paul Nuttall. And then Nigel Farage, let me read you this. Nigel Farage, before the by-election, said, I don't think anybody for one moment can underplay just how important and absolutely fundamental that by-election is for the future of UKIP. It matters, and it matters hugely. And the truth is, your chances of replacing Labour are now zero.
No, that's not true at all.
Fundamentally destroyed in a key seat that you should have won.
No. Look, if there was one mistake we made, it was that maybe Paul shouldn't have run so early. I accept that, maybe. Maybe that was because he's only been leader for 12 weeks. But I think that
Sorry, just explain to us why that was a mistake.
Well, because people hadn't got to know him well enough, I think.
Was he too inexperienced for that kind of role?
No, not too experienced. But I think that the overriding point you make is that, without question, UKIP has an appeal for working class, patriotic working class people. We didn't win this time. There are many by-elections coming up. There are many years. Remember, when we talk about replacing Labour, about 120 years ago, there was one Labour MP, Keir Hardie. He remained just one MP for quite a long time.
It did take 120 years to get where they got.
No. It took about a generation. And the fact is that this week, Andrew, I have to make this point, for all the people who constantly are saying that this is the end for UKIP, we were 15% in the polls. Now, when we had the general election and we got 4 million votes, that was about 12%. We've increased. I admit what is difficult is translating that support with this kind of parliamentary system we have into MPs. Yes. That is a challenge. That is a challenge. But we will meet it.
That is the system we have.